Hey guys, my name is Dice Rollin. Today I'm joined by Ross from Random Horror.
Hello, I am Random Ross from Random Horror, and I would like to thank Dice Rollin for having me on this video and on her channel, sharing some of these facts with you about Candyman.
Directed by Bernard Rose, Candyman is about a grad student named Helen, uncovering local urban legends and inadvertently summoning the Candyman. Helen has to find a way to stop Candyman as he kills people on his way to her. So without further ado, let's dig up Candyman.
They will say that I have shed innocent blood. What's blood for, if not for shedding?
The aerial shot of Chicago used in the opening credits made use of the Skycam, which could shoot 500mm lens with no vibration, and was very new for the time.
The effect of a swarm of bees flying towards the camera in the opening of the movie was done with special effects. Actual bees would be placed on a wall and kept in place with hormones. Then a special vacuum that would have harmed the bees was used. This footage was superimposed onto the original shot of the city.
The part of the movie where Helen explained to Bernadette how the killer was able to get into Ruthie Jean's apartment is actually true. When Bernard Rose was researching for the movie, he discovered that several murders in Chicago were committed by the killer climbing through the space where the medicine cabinets were. One of such murders was of Ruthie Mae McCoy, who lived in the Abbott Homes housing project. She was killed by an intruder in 1987, who had gotten into her apartment through the bathroom medicine cabinet.
The phrases that we see throughout Candyman, sweets for the sweet, is from William Shakespeare's Hamlet. Another phrase borrowed and adapted from Shakespeare is the line from Macbeth, from knave to the chaps. It became from goring to gullet.
During the scene in the public restroom, in order to keep the bees in the toilet, Vaseline was put on the upper inside of the bowl so they couldn't climb out. The toilet itself wasn't functional and held no water, but was filled with the scent of a queen bee. Hypnosis through a trigger phrase was used on Virginia Madsen during her scenes with Tony Todd, in order to achieve a more realistic performance of Helen being under Candyman's spell. However, she became rather uncomfortable with this after a while, and the use of this method stopped. If you take a closer look at the Candyman's coat, you'll notice it's a dark purple color. This is meant to emulate the coat of Willy Wonka, sort of a Candyman joke.
The scene in which the Candyman's hook bursts through the cabinet of medicine. Virginia Madsen did not know this was going to happen, so the shock and fear you see from her are real. She also ran from the set screaming afterwards.
The bees used during the later part of the movie were bred just for the film. The reason for this is the bees needed to be only 12 hours old so that their sting wouldn't do that much damage. According to Virginia Madsen, paramedics were present due to the fact that she is allergic. While the actual time to film the scene was kept short, the time it took to safely remove the bees took about 45 minutes each time. During the scene where Tony Todd literally has a mouthful of bees, those bees are very real. He wore a dental dam to keep the bees from going anywhere they weren't supposed to.
The design of Candyman's lair was inspired by Gothic church construction, and according to Tony Todd, it was located on the south side of Chicago in Building 116, Unit C.
If the idea of the bonfire that the residents of Cabrini Green were having seems out of place, there's a good reason. Since the movie was originally going to be set in a fake British housing project during the late 70s, it would have coincided with traditions of Guy Fawkes Night. And speaking of Guy Fawkes, there's a Guy Fawkes mask next to Helen's bathroom mirror.
Candyman is based from Clive Barker's short story The Forbidden, which is actually set in Liverpool, England, not Chicago. In Barker's short story, the Candyman looks nothing like the character we see on screen. He was originally described as possibly being a white man with frizzy blonde hair, an unruly red beard, and wore a multicoloured coat.
This fact isn't going to help anyone who had nightmares because of the Candyman. There was a real-life Candyman serial killer in the early 70s. Dean Corrill raped and murdered several boys in Houston, Texas. How he got the name Candyman was from luring the kids to his home with candy. 2 teens actually helped him in luring the boys. However, when they learned that Corrill planned to do similar acts to one of them, they shot him dead.
While the Candyman legend itself isn't real, it is made of 2 actual urban legends, the Hook and Bloody Mary.
In order to have an authentic looking hook as the key prop, the effects crew hired a blacksmith to make it, but when they arrived to pick up the finished product, the blacksmith refused to sell it to them. This was because he had learned his work was going to be used in a Clive Barker movie, and as a devout Christian, he didn't like that idea.
The part of Helen Lyle almost went to Bernard Rose's ex-wife, Alexandra Pigg, but since she was pregnant at the time, it went to Virginia Madsen, who was originally going to play Helen's friend, and according to Alan Paul, she hadn't taken the role, it would have gone to Sandra Bullock.
It's extremely hard to imagine anyone as Candyman besides Tony Todd. But Eddie Murphy was considered for the part. One of the deciding factors that got Tony Todd the role instead was the fact that Murphy is 5'9" while Todd is 6'5".
Composer Philip Glass was rather disappointed with the finished film. He had assumed that the music he was creating was for an artful take on Clive Barker's short story, but it ended up being a low-budget slasher. All the same, he has said that he gets a check every year because of Candyman, so he can't be that upset.
Tony Todd and Virginia Madsen took ballroom dancing lessons at Bernard Rose's request. This way, they would be able to portray more of a romantic connection through their characters.
During filming, Jejun Guy was given the nickname One Take Jake since he would complete his takes flawlessly.
Exterior shots of the housing projects were actually shot at Cabrini Green, and in order to ensure the safety of the cast and crew, the producers made a deal with ruling gang members. They would be extras in the movie. Even with this, during the last day of filming, a bullet was shot through the production van by a sniper. Thankfully, no one was hurt.
There was a scene during the swirling embrace between Helen and Candyman where he tells her to surrender to him. This was actually cut by the studio because they were unsure of the implied interracial
During the filming of the 3 Candyman films, Tony Todd was stung approximately 23 times. He was able to get $1,000 as compensation though.
Bernard Rose has stated that Candyman isn't a horrible villain to him. Instead, he is compared him to Dracula in that he is a romantic character who romanticizes death. He is also a sort of representative of America's past with slavery as well as racial segregation in Chicago at the time.
Tony Todd has stated that Candyman was his favorite role, and this is his favorite movie that he starred in.
In a sense, the Cabrini Green we seen in the film no longer exists. The last high-rise apartment in that area was demolished in 2011.
So those were some facts about Candyman you may not have known. Special thanks once again to Ross from Random Horror for collabing with me on this, and providing some of these facts. Be sure to check out his channel in the description below and send some support his way. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a like to let me know. And don't forget to leave a comment down below telling me what other horror movies you'd like to see me dig up some facts about. Also don't forget to share this video to help the channel grow, and subscribe for more videos like this. See you later.